good now. So I hope you can put up with good. All right. These formulas are super important. They're not always going to ask you for every single one of them. You may only have to use one of them for a finance question. But I think one of the most important numbers that you're going to come up with, sometimes it's just going to ask you for the loan flat out, nothing else. Sometimes it goes straight to the monthly payment, but it's the loan, right? This number, you're going to have to use that number. If you calculate it on its own, you're going to have to use this again for your monthly payment calculation. Okay, so there's the loan. It shows up again when you figure out the total interest. Make sure you have finance charge as well, because some exams have asked for finance charge and students did not know because they only had total interest on their study sheet. It's the same thing. Okay, but there is the loan one more time. Okay, so loan, and it shows up again. Anybody, can you spot it? It shows up one more time here. So that loan, once you've determined it, could be used in other parts, right? You never know. So that's what you borrowed. Okay, that's what you borrowed. And I actually, now I'm just thinking of it because I told you this is coming back in home finance. So I'm going to go way at the top of this box. And I'm going to call this loans / mortgages. Have you ever heard of the term mortgages? It is just a loan towards a house, towards real estate. It's the same thing. We just call it mortgage when it's towards a house or a condo or a piece of property, okay? But they mean the same thing. So down the road, I'm not going to do it just yet because it might confuse you, right? But down the road, loan is going to be / mortgage. This part may be called loan, but it could also be called mortgage. Okay, so that you have to be comfortable with. Okay. Another thing. I'm not going to highlight more right now. I'm just going to leave it, but the loan is important. Okay. I also want to say this. Students see price minus down, and then sometimes a question doesn't have a down payment, and they're like, I have to have a down payment. It can't be. So they'll just make up a number and throw it in there. Don't do that. Okay. If the question doesn't mention a down payment, it just means that you don't have a down payment. You're borrowing everything to buy that car. You don't have anything saved up, right? Or you're not putting it down. All right. I'm 27. This is new. I just added this for this year. At the bottom of this, the formulas here. What did I write down? To determine the payment, the bank determines the interest for the entire loan, adds it to the loan, right, the original principal, then divides it by the number of periods you choose to pay. So, total cost of the purchase would be really the sticker price of the car, any taxes that you're paying, down payment, subtract, and then add the interest. This is new. I've never done this before, but I would say this is probably a good idea to have on your study sheet as well. They're mowing the lawn or doing the weeds here, and it's interesting because usually they wait until a test. That's when they come by and go, right? So it's pretty interesting. It's during the lesson. So payment would be total cost of purchase, right, divided by the number of months. Interesting. So I'm going to go back, and for some of you might have a hard time staying awake for this part, but I'm going to try my best to make it interesting. Okay, it's just you need to understand why we do this. Okay, so let's go back to 24. You're going to have to fill in some blanks. All right. So some definitions you need to know about a loan. Try to ignore that if you can. Total principal is the amount of loan. This is on page 24. Total principal is what we call the amount of the loan you were given by the bank. This will need to be repaid in full. We can call this the loan or TP for total principal, okay? So it's the same thing. Then there's something called total interest. This is the finance charge okay, or the cost of borrowing. It's also the same thing. Cost of borrowing. We call this TI. Okay, TI is what I call this. Then there's total paid to the bank. Total paid to the bank is the sum of total principal and total interest. So if you take your loan and the total interest that they end up charging you, that is how much you will essentially pay them back. Okay? So this is where TPB is essentially total principal plus total interest. This formula is not necessary to add to your study sheet. Just stick with the ones that I've already given you. So this is where my highlighters come in. Okay, so I'm going to say total principal is the loan. Okay, the loan or TP. That's what we call. Imagine that this is the loan that they gave you. I'm not going to color everything in because it's going to bleed right through. Then there is something we call the total interest, the TI. That's this part right here. And all of those, like these two combined, that's what you're going to pay them back. Okay? Total paid back is this. Your grade 11 teacher may have already talked about this. Okay? They may have done this already. They may have tried to convey this message to you that there's the total principal, that's the loan, and there's the total interest. If you'd like to add loan here, that's just fine. So what the bank does is they kind of, on their computer system, figures this out already. It's like, this is your loan, and over 5 years, let's say you're going to pay it back. The computer figures out how much interest they will charge over those 5 years. So what they do is they put this together, ka-ching, right? And then they divide this by how many months in 5 years? 5 times 12? 60, right? They would divide this number that they figure out by 60, and so every month you pay a little bit of these back on both ends, okay? Next, monthly payment. So when we zoom into our monthly payment, your bank will determine the monthly payment, which stays fixed. I'm going to just use a regular highlighter here. The payment stays fixed. It doesn't change until the loan is repaid in full. But the payment is blended, which means that part of it is interest and part of it is principal. Like some of it goes into paying this off, and some of your payment goes into here to pay the interest off. That's why we call it blended. To distinguish the monthly principal, we call it P, while the monthly interest is called I. And we also refer to I equals PRT here, but I will just use that if you zoom into a payment, this is what we call lowercase p, and this is what we call lowercase I. Okay, so your payment is always going to be a little bit of p and a little bit of I. Okay. These two combined make your payment. And this is why we call it blended. a payment is blended. It has a little bit of principal because not all of it goes towards paying off your loan. Some of it goes towards the interest that they're going to charge you over that long period of time. Interesting stuff, huh? I know. Term. I think most of you will know what that means, but term is the amount of time it takes to pay off a loan. Most banks will allow up to 5 years for used vehicles and up to 7 years for new vehicles for your loans. Okay? 5 years is 60 months. I think that's a good one to remember. And 7 years is 84 months. Okay? If you want to write that down, you go for it. Interest rate. The bank will charge a posted interest rate which is stated as a percentage. I circle that. We convert this to a decimal by dividing it by 100. I think you all know that already. Okay? Okay, keep going. I'm going to skip page 25. You skip page 25. I'm going to go straight to page 26. Just because time and I need you to stay awake. All right. Watch this. Imagine you borrow 10 grand and you figure out your payment. This is this column right here. So let's imagine we're paying this off in 12 months. So you can actually write down months here at the top, but that didn't make it through there. Months. This is your lowercase I, and this is your lowercase p. So this breaks down your payment every single month. Let's add this up. 50 plus, so if we added the p and the I, if we add that up, this is what we call our payment. Make sure you add the payment column. Oh, sorry. I meant to put it in here. Sorry. If we add these two up, what do we get? I think we can do this mental math, right? 860, 66. Okay? Next month comes along. What's your interest here? It went down a little bit, correct? And what happened to the principal portion of your payment? Went up a little bit. What do you think this is going to add up to? It's Friday. I can't do mental math today, sorry. I was hoping you were going to tell me, but oh, it's the same thing. Your payment hasn't changed, right? This is what a lot of us do not see. This is behind the scenes. Most banking system nowadays, if you go into your loan, like I have my checking account, my savings account, and then my car loan. If you click on that car loan, this pops up on my car loan. Every month it'll break down how much interest you pay that month and how much of it actually goes towards paying. This goes towards paying off your loan, the principal part. This goes towards the total interest. So if you combine all of these numbers, that's how much interest you will have paid over the entire loan. And that happens every single pay period. If you do bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. If you do monthly, every month. What do you think the next month is going to add up to? You think it's going to be the same? I don't know. I don't trust Mr. Dirksen. I'm going to check. Because it's 860. 66 again. So the payment stays fixed. The interest doesn't. Okay? So all of this goes into TI, and all of this will go into total principal. Okay? So I'm not going to go ahead and add 860, 66 every single time. I'm going to go to the very last one. I believe that might be different. Is it the same? Oh. But can I tell you something? The last payment is not always a full payment. Did you know that? Sometimes honestly, one of my last payments was $4.38. Because they break it down evenly, and then there's always a little bit left over, so you have one extra payment of whatever is left, okay? But for the most part, it's going to stay the same. So payment doesn't change. The interest, every payment, and it goes down because you owe less. Every time you owe a little less. So the interest goes down, okay? And so remember that. That's something I want you to know. Here's another visual for you to see. Okay? If you want to look at these bars, this is what we call a payment. Write this down. It will make more sense to you. Right? Every payment is $860.66. I used a calculator for this, by the way, like a loan calculator. You can get that anytime online. Just look it up. Loan calculator. Boom, you get it. Okay, so $860.66. So this would technically be for the first month. If we were to copy, I used to do that. I'm not going to make you do that. But technically, the very first one would be $810.66. Would go into the principal portion of that bar, and the lowercase I here would have been the $50 the first month. And then as you go along, less and less of your payment, of this payment, less and less of that payment goes towards interest, right? So that's something to remember. Did you know that already? I hope you had a sense. If not, then I hope after today at least. This is coming back on home finance, so I'm going to hit you now with it and then later again with it. But that's what I need you to remember, okay? Let's keep going. Oh, the formulas again. So happy about those. 27. So that's your loan. This is going to be, this table rate, you're going to get that from a table that's on page 32, okay? But the table is always provided. Table is usually provided. If there is no table to get this table rate, they will flat out give that to you. Okay, they will flat out give you that number so you don't have to go get it from a table. Total paid to the bank is your payment times the number of years times 12, right? If you multiply this through, you actually find out how much you paid them back at the end. To figure out your total interest, you take what you paid the bank, you subtract the loan from it, and that difference is your total interest that you've paid. So let's put it to the test. Let's use these formulas right now. So let's go over to page 28. Example 1. There's no down payment here. Okay, I'm flat out giving you that answer. Let's say you need to borrow a total of $31,500 to buy a car. This already includes taxes. How do we know that? Because that's how much you need to borrow. So the assumption is your dealer or whatever has already done all the math. You need to borrow this much, okay, to buy a new car. The dealership offers you a 5-year loan at 3.5% interest. You have no down payment. Calculate the monthly payment. So this is why I wanted you to have this on your study sheet already. It's asking you to calculate the monthly payment. So this is the formula that I would expect you to grab from your study sheet, which says price minus down times table rate over 1,000, and in your study sheet you will call this the loan. Make sure you do that. Okay. Do we already know what the loan is? Yes or no? It says you need to borrow $31,500. So this is also the loan. I'll make another arrow, sorry. That's the loan. That's what we need to borrow. It already includes taxes and whatever else. So we just go ahead and just plug in 31,500 and replacing this thing right here because we already know what the loan is. Sometimes we subtract, other times we just plug in. Over 1,000. This number we need to get from our table. And I'm going to use a highlighter to just point it out. So you need to look at your interest rate down here, which is 3.5%. I'm going to circle that. And you match it with the term in years. In this case, it's a 5-year loan, correct? So you go over to 5, circle that. And then you just match where those two meet. Okay, so this goes over here, and this goes over here. So it's this number that we're after, the 1819. What does this thing say here? Personal payment calculator, monthly payment per $1,000. You see that per $1,000? That's why we always put 1,000 down here. That's why it's always gonna, if you see per 1,000, you're like, oh, okay, that's why I have it divided by 1,000. So it shouldn't surprise you. Okay? And I'm gonna use a red pen because if you need to use a table to go grab a number, which in this case is 1819, you get a mark just for actually going and getting that number. The province will give you a full mark for just having that correct number copied down. And now we're ready. Grab your calculator. This is how I do it. 31,500 times 1819 divided by 1,000. That's how I do it, and that's what you get. $572.99 a month. We're always doing monthly payments, so you don't have to worry about bi-weekly or anything like that. However, I know that I keep on saying, do your brackets, do that first. Okay, let's do it. 18.19 divided by 1,000. You get that. And then you multiply this by 31,500. You're going to get the same answer. So if that's what you need to do, you do it. Right? If you're not sure, I told you do brackets first. Just go ahead and do it. Okay? Regardless, you get the same answer. B. Calculate, so we're still doing calculating, right? The total amount paid back to the bank in 5 years. So this is how much we paid them back in 5 years. So you have this formula there, total paid to the bank, which states, sorry, I don't know why that's a B there. We're in business, yeah. Payment times, was it years that I gave you? Yeah. Number of years times 12, because it's always 12 months, so there's no arguing there. It's always a monthly payment that you're making. So we go and get our payment, which you already know. That's $572.99. We multiply it by how many years are we talking about here? 5 years. And we multiply that by 12. And by the way, whether you see it or not, you could technically, when everything is multiplying, it doesn't matter where you start. But 5 times 12 that's 60 months, correct? So you're really saying 60 payments of $572.99. Okay? So whether you just go ahead and multiply it this way, or you start from the back, go this way, it doesn't matter. 3 times 2 times 1 is the same thing as 1 times 2 times 3, right? So when everything is multiplying, but if you just follow my formula, you should be just fine. There it is, 34,000. 379.40. Okay, don't put 0.4 because you're going to lose half a mark. Most of my students, by the time it's exam time, I don't even have to take rounding marks off. It's like you're talking a whole exam and you never made a rounding error. So that's pretty good. Okay, so you can do it. C, the total interest paid on the loan. Watch for the wording. It's total interest. What else do we call total interest? Finance charge? Finance charge, okay? It's the same thing. So I will actually, you cannot, if I give you an AC on Monday, you cannot say I didn't know, okay? Because I've said it multiple times. It's the same thing as the finance charge. They're charging you to finance it over a long period of time. So, there we go. Total interest. I'm going to pretend like I didn't do the question before just now. I'm just going to pretend we're starting with total interest. What does it call for? Payment times years times 12, correct? But it asks for minus loan, correct? Okay. So payment is $572.99. Talking 5 years over 12 months. Where's my loan number? I'm going to go back up and I'm going to take that loan that I've already determined is that number. Whatever's in front of your table rate, that is the loan, right? So maybe I'll do one more time. Right? That's the loan right here. That's the number that I'm going to take down here. Okay, 31,500. Do I already know this one? Yeah, I'm just going to go copy. Why redo it, right? Minus 31,500. And I told you, you will always pay back more than what your loan is. And I'll tell you this, a lot of students do the math and they come up with some low number, like 24,000, let's say. Can't be. This should always be greater than that. So you probably made a mistake in your payment calculation. So let's subtract that. I'm going to go with my key here. We get 2,879.40. That is the total interest. That's how much the bank profited from you borrowing that money. And so now imagine they have hundreds or no, probably thousands, tens of thousands of loans out there, and everybody pays them interest. Right? That's how they make money. That's their basically their motto, right? They take somebody's saving. If you save money with a bank, they take that money and they give it to someone else to buy their car. Then they get interest, and some of that you get back, right? Because for saving money, they pay you interest, right? So they charge and pay, but they keep some of it for themselves. It's a brilliant, they're using somebody else's money to make money, right? That's how it works. If I had more money, I'd probably do that too. The amount of interest, so now it says calculate the amount of interest and principal paid, keyword here coming up, on the first month's payment only. When you see this, it's only like that first payment that we want to distill, we want to break that down. Okay? So I will say this. To find I, that's what I would start with. Find the interest portion of that payment. We go loan times interest rate divided by 100, not 1,000. All of that divided by 12. My loan is what? 31,500. My interest rate, I should make sure you understand this one. Some students, and it happens a lot, that's why I'm stopping here. They will go and grab this rate right here, this one, and divide it by 100, because it's a rate as well. But this is a table rate. You only use it once for your payment, that's it. You want that interest rate. What is my interest rate here? 3.5%, right, is a percentage. So that's the number that goes down here. So you take the 3.5% and you divide it by 100, and then you divide everything by 12. And some of you are not going to bother writing it like that. You're just going to turn your percentage into a decimal right away. That is no problem at all. In fact, that's probably what I do most of the time. So 3.5 divided by 100 is 0.035, and you divide all of that by 12. Because you want 1 month only, that's why we divide by 12. Divided by 12, you can do it all in one shot, or you can do it in steps. And there it is, $91.88 that you pay in interest the first month. Let me give you a diagram before I do the rest. This is your payment. This is the payment. This is I, and this is P. Okay. We know that of your payment, which is what, $572.99, $91.88 is the interest portion of that payment. So how would I find this portion right here? P is payment, which I gave you the formula, minus I. You take the whole payment, which is that whole bar here, and you will take away the interest portion. And that gives you $481.11. I'm going to use a red pen to write that in. $481.11. Combined, they make you that payment, right, that you're after. So you have to start with lowercase I, like the interest, calculate that, and then you can figure out the principal portion. Welcome to cabin life, guys. You have wasps, you have chainsaws, no, weed eaters. Okay, so write this down, and we're gonna try, I'm gonna ask you to try one, a scary moment. You're gonna have to do this on your own. Page 29, not scary, right? Not scary. And cross off the, because the province has done this as well, there's a monthly payment chart. I think it's on page 32. Let's go find it once. Yeah. So that is a huge chart, right? It has interest rates all the way to what, 12%? And it goes over 5 years. So this is going to help you for any question related to payments. You're going to go here. The good news is this. The province either gives you a table or they just flat out give you the number that you're supposed to use. One of the two. For me, ACs and tests, I give you a little snippet of this table already. So you never have to carry this with you, right? For those purposes. Anything in this booklet, you have to go here to get it, but not for ACs or tests. Okay? Right. Then I'll give you the rest of the class to just work, because I will throw in some curveballs here and there, so be aware of that. All right, example 2. We're buying this car after tax. So this is already including tax. In this case, there's a down payment, right? For a down payment. So we're not borrowing the entire amount. That's important. He wants to finance the remaining amount over 4 years with an interest rate of 7.25. That's important as well, the interest rate and the time. And notice this. Sometimes the province will just do this and no chart. So some students would raise their hands like, where's the chart, Mr. Erickson? And I would just be like, just read the question, right? So this per $1,000, that is your table rate. So to figure out the payment, in this case, you have to go 35,600 minus 4,900, and I do put it in brackets because that has to happen first. Okay, then you put that over 1,000, and we grab the 2407. It's 2407 per $1,000 of loan. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, and please do this. Please do this. Don't just show me this and give me a number. Figure out what this is. This is 30,700. This is what we call the loan. It's very important that you identify what the loan is. Okay? So then you grab your calculator. After you've subtracted, so you go 35,600 minus 4,900. Right? That's the loan. Write it down. Times 24.07 divided by 1,000. There we go. 738.95 rounded per month. So that's your monthly payment. It doesn't change. It stays the same for the rest of your loan. Total amount paid to the paid back to the bank in 4 years. So that's this one. So we go 738.95 times 4 times 12. So you're making 48 payments of that. That's a whopping 35,469.60. You borrowed this much, you're going to pay back this much. So, right, almost $5,000. You can tell already that almost $5,000 in interest. Next, total interest paid over 4 years. TI. This is somewhat repetitive, I know that, but TI, you have to subtract the loan. And the loan is 30,700, not 35,600. So keep that in mind. This gives you 35,469.60. We already know that. We're going to subtract that from it. And here we have it. I'm just going to use my key here. 4769.60. That's also called the finance charge. Same thing. Cost of borrowing. Some of you like visuals. I'm not really good at art, isn't my thing, but imagine this is the bar that represents everything you've paid the bank. Okay, so you borrowed 30,700. This is the total principal, also known as the loan. Okay, and the bank charged you for doing so. So it has to do with how long it takes you and the interest rate. Okay, that's basically what comes into how much interest you will be paying. So this is the TI part. And all of this is the total paid to the bank part, which is that 35,469. Okay, it's important that you understand what you're doing, or else you know, you might miss something if it's asked a different way. Okay, there you go. The principal and interest paid on the first month. That is the key here. I'm going to use a different highlighter. Just the first month. Start with the interest. Start with this one first. So you use this one, lowercase I, which is the loan times the interest rate. Interest rate. It has to have a percentage attached to it. It's not the table rate, it's the interest rate. And that gets divided by 12. 7.25 divided by 100 is this. Okay, so interest. Oh, I'm using up too much space. Let me just put it under here. This is already, my writing now is so much better than in high school. In high school, my teachers would always say, I have no idea what you just wrote. Okay. 185.48. I know some of you are thinking, how bad was it? It's bad already. Okay. How much worse can it get? So that's my interest that I paid on the very first month. And what happens to this amount thereafter? Does it go up or down? It goes down. Goes down every month after that. It goes down. Okay? And then principal, how would we do this? We take our payment, 95, and we subtract the interest portion from it, and then we have the principal portion, which is 553.47. Okay? So you're going to work hard, right? You're going to work hard. You're going to work wherever and make your money, and you're going to make your payment of $738, this payment, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I paid off quite a bit. It's like, well, the first month you actually only paid off $553.47. This, the bank says, thank you very much. That's our money. Keep paying, right? Keep paying. And so obviously they need to make money because you're taking time to pay it back. Right? So this is the first month principal. Okay, in a sense, if you like visuals, here it is. This money would actually go towards paying this off. And this money would go into this portion right there every month. Sorry, you can't see that. Bad visual, right? But it's slowly, it's almost like you have a bucket and you slowly put it in there. And over time, if you added up all the interest every month, you would end up paying this much. And obviously you have to repay the loan, right? That is a given. How much did Dilraj pay for the car in total, including the down payment? Anybody get this one? This is saying TPC. So at the end of the day, you're like, okay, I paid off my loan. I now have my car. I can call this my car. How much did I pay for it after all? Like how much actually came out of my pocket? And this is the answer. You go down, right? Down payment plus the total paid to the bank. You have this formula. This isn't a very popular question, but it has come up. So 4,900 plus, what's this one? I'm going to borrow it already. I already know that number. I've done that before. It's right here, 35,469, or even one up from that. So 35,469.6. So you add that up, and here's what you really paid for the car at the end of the day. So you know we often say, like, if you buy a car for 10 grand, but you took a loan, you're like, yeah, I paid 10 grand for it. It's like, no, you didn't. You actually paid more. You just have to figure out how much, right? So if the bank ever gives you a payment, over 5 years, multiply that payment by 60, and then you actually know how much you will pay them back at the end of the 5 years. That's the best way to find out. All right, I'm going to say this. I'm going to send you straight to the worksheet on this section. That's 33 to 36. So I'm just going to put that down here. And I need you to do a few on your own today. The key will show up shortly, so you can listen to music if you need to. And then the key will pop up and you can check, am I doing this right? Finance is extremely important to wrap your head around. So leave page 30 for now, unless you really feel strongly about it. I will, if I have time, I'll do that later, meaning Monday. But for now, go to 33 and just work through those questions there, okay? Thank you, guys. And if you have questions, come